Hello and welcome. I was hanging out on this alternate stream 2 days ago now. Wow, time flies. And there was some stuff said around this part of the video that I thought was pretty interesting. What we're going to look at today is the part where they were talking about being a comic book creator and trying to do business with local comic book stores. I thought this was fascinating because I have been to a lot of comic book stores. Maybe not like a huge number, but it seems like a lot. We're talking a couple dozen, I guess. And thinking back on that experience, the only comic book store that I've been in that called out like locally owned creator books was one of the Graham Crackers comics in Chicago. I don't remember which one. All those little Chicago suburbs. I'm sorry for people that live in Chicago, but they all kind of blur together to me. So I don't remember exactly which one it was. Graham Crackers. There's their website, and you can see they've got stores all over the place. It was might have been Wheaton or Downers Grove. I remember going to both of those on the same day, and also went to the one in DeKalb on my way back from being in Chicago. Anyway, I digress. And on the shelf in there, they had a couple issues of maybe it was the same issue, but there was several copies of this book, Coronary. And we'll talk some more about that after we listen to these fine people.
Let's see, Immortal Death God says I got to get more copies of indie comics and make my local comic shop guys read them. If you have if you're close with your comic shop, yeah, that could work out. Otherwise, if you've got anybody that's a friend or a coworker or anything along those lines that you might think would be interested, it'd probably be an easier sell.
So, Peter's going to elaborate on what he's talking about here, what he's implying. But he's kind of telling Immortal Death God here that you're basically wasting your time trying to get your shop interested in this stuff. And again, there's only one shop I'm like really familiar with. I mean, I go to the Westfield Comics here in Madison once in a while. It's been getting on towards a year now since I've been in there. I'm just not buying enough books to support two shops anymore, you know? But I go to my Graham Crackers over on East Washington. The shop man there, Sean, really cool dude. He actually, every now and then, asks me about alternate comics. He doesn't buy them anymore. I don't, understand how the whole Graham Cracker distribution thing works. So he doesn't buy them anymore because they're not available through one of the distributors they work with. But he still asks, like twice now, I think, about how alternate comics is doing, if they're still in business, still printing books and stuff. So he knows what I like, and he's not averse to stocking weird indie stuff. In fact, sometimes I think he buys weird indie stuff, like just a copy of it, because he's got a pretty good idea that I'm going to be the sucker that buys it, because I buy weird stuff sometimes. So my shop there knows this stuff. Now this Graham Cracker, the one in Madison, does not have like a little local indie creator section or anything like that. Not like the one I went to in Chicago that called out with like a note that, hey, Coronary is a local creator, which I thought was really cool. I already owned like Coronary because I backed Kickstarter or something before I went to Chicago and saw it there. But my shop man, he's at least aware that Alterna is a thing that exists, even if he doesn't order from them. And I think he doesn't order from them because that's not how corporate policy works and that kind of stuff. It's not like this is just a single little store. That's independently run. There's a single little store that lives in an ecosystem with other stores too, and they all have to go through presumably like the same stuff, because I think he like actually has to drive down sometimes and pick things up that are like special orders and bring them up because they won't just ship them. He does get comics delivered directly to the store, for like the weekly orders, which sometimes get messed up pretty badly even without Diamond involved. But that's neither here nor there. Let's go back to the video.
Sell them on the comics than it would be to the local comic shop. It's so strange because I do feel that way, and Spencer had mentioned it before, that sometimes you'll go into these shops and it just seems like the worst and last thing on earth that you would want to do with these guys is talk comics with them. Especially if you have one. It turns into just this weird like, oh, so you make comics, huh? Okay. Kind of attitude. It's like a very strange, like they look at you like you just said something horrible, and you're just trying to fleece them for all they're worth.
Yeah,
And
you or you get the places that act like there's 100 of you a day walking in.
yeah, and
Mm,
it's like, well, you are a store that sells comic books, and I'm a person who makes comic books, and I would think that you would need these things to have the store that sells the things. So
So we're gonna pause here for a second because this also kind of goes against my experience at my graham cracker store. Because there's at least one dude that shops there that's an artist of some kind, and he and my shop man, I don't know the guy's name, I don't know what he's worked on, but he and Sean have regularly, whenever I see them, which once every 3 to 6 months, like it's not very often. I've seen this dude in there like maybe 4 or 5 times in the last 2 years, but he talks like comic book stuff with Sean, and from the like business side perspective, like oh yeah, I worked with that guy, like that kind of talk. And Sean's like super cordial with him, like he is with most people that come in. He establishes a rapport with each of his regular customers. So here in this kind of thing, it reminds me, like I have been in some shops where you go in, and the atmosphere of the shop is kind of hostile. So if I'm getting that as like somebody coming in there to spend money in some of these places, I can absolutely see, what Peter's talking about here. Yeah, there are definitely some comic shops that I've been in where it's kind of like I don't actually want to physically be in this place. And if that carries through to their relationships with like local talent, local creators, and stuff, people who can establish good relationships, and then show up and do a signing and stuff like that, and do like that tandem cross promotion kind of stuff where everybody benefits. If they're that mean, or means the wrong word, if they're that cold to me, I can't imagine what the relationship is like in those situations with these guys.
I think we should probably have a nice relationship. Yeah, and they don't have to stock a million of them. I mean, even if your book doesn't look that great, if I had a comic shop, I would just be like, yeah, sure, I'll pick one up. It's you're local. I'm gonna have a local creator section, and I'm gonna put you right there with the rest of them. And then when that sells out, give me your information or whatever, and I'll contact you and be like, hey, that one sold out. Now I want two. And then that's how you get business going.
yeah.
You hear all this stuff about like support local business and this and that, but then when it comes to local business supporting other local business, it turns into like
They'll
so.
complain to you about supply chains and things while you're like, I'm
And I'm like, I
physically in a
am the supply chain. Yeah,
right here.
right here.
Yeah, no one will stop me.
It's
I will get these books to you, and
yeah. Like I said, it's very
Canada.
strange. In my personal experience, it's been about 1 out of every 10 shops that you interact with on that level will actually be receptive to it, let alone actually stock the book in the store. I know Rob's got a whole mountain of stories being in New York in that area where there's not a ton of shops.
The
So again, this kind of like I can see this happening. Like Rob, look at that smile he's got. That's the knowing smile of pain. Like he clearly has experienced, bad times trying to talk to store owners. But again, I'm going to kind of refer to my example. Maybe this is just because my shop man Sean is really cool. But we've had I've been in his shop before when a dude came in and was like, "Hey, we're putting on a little convention. Can I leave a stack of flyers here?" And Sean was like, "Yeah, let me take a look at the flyers." And he took a look at us. Oh, hey, that's pretty cool. Like, we'll probably like drop some flyers off at your show. And so, boom, instantly, both sides got something out of it. This was for that MightyCon, no, not MightyCon, QuadCon that was in the mall. That I did that. I had took a couple photos of and did a quick little video about 3 months ago or something like that. Like I saw that whole transaction go down, and it was a super cordial thing. It's like, oh yeah, that's not an unreasonable ask. Hey, that's pretty cool. You know, maybe you can swing me a little Benny if I swing you a little Benny, and everybody comes out of it maybe a little bit happier. Hopefully, a lot of those flyers for graham crackers got picked up off the table. But you see what I'm saying? Like, there's no reason when you're in this kind of business that you should immediately initiate hostile relationships with other people in the business. Now, I say this knowing full well, that I was involved in the stupid Stickergate thing, which was really stupid, but also kind of funny because it was just so insanely stupid, which is why I keep bringing it up. Like, my own stupidity is funny to me sometimes, and that was very stupid during that time period. but it was really funny. So what Peter's talking about here seems like really reasonable. Oh, you're a local creator. Yeah, I'll buy a book. And just kind of looking around my office here, I have, multiple like local books. I've got like 2 copies of Sergi the Spider or something like that, which is totally some weird local indie book. I got some weird stuff that I picked up at the thrift shops, over the last couple of years, which might be local stuff. I'm not entirely sure, but I know Sergi the Spider was. So there's stuff like that, and there's no reason as a shop owner, like if you can't swing like $3 to buy a book from somebody and then put it on, your shelf, which I understand also shelf space is precious, right? You don't want to have a whole bunch of junk clogging your place up. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you. I have seen like the same toys in graham crackers in Westfield for a long time. Yeah, the merchandise moves every once in a while, but you see like the same little statuette or the same action figure or whatever, and it's hanging up on the wall and it's been there for like 3 years. That toy is way more expensive than a $3 comic book. That toy retails for like 20, 25, $30, which means I'm going off of my experience working in a bookstore where I had to do orders, and our markup was 50% for trade paperbacks. So based on that, you know, that toy that sells for $25 probably costs the store like $10. It takes up just as much space as a single comic book. So why not just buy the single comic book? You might sell it. And if you don't, you're out a lot less money than that toy. So when you go and you throw it in the 75-cent bin, you're out like $3 as opposed to waiting for like some crazy sale to come along when you sell that toy at half off, and instead of making like $30 or instead of making like $15 off that toy, you break even, you know? Granted, I guess technically breaking even is not a loss. So maybe, ultimately there's a little value there, but it doesn't seem crazy to me to want and expect like local shops to support the local talent. Everybody's got to eat. And if you can establish a nice symbiotic business relationship with local talent, like you get them in the door. In fact, we're going to switch over to my dimly lit camera here. Let me actually turn on an extra light. And we'll flip this on. Here we go. All right, we should have a little light. And what I mean by like establish a good relationship, it's right here. It's right here. This book is written by a local creator. He writes comic books. He's got this one called Beowulf, which is kind of like a Cthulhu mystery type thing. And he's got another one called Rebirth of the Gangster. I still got to read the 3rd volume of that. Very intense stuff. He's about to wrap up the final arc of that and get it published and all that, which means he'll be prepping the final trade too. But he wrote this book. He's done signings at Graham Crackers. He did a signing at Westfield. In fact, I think that's where he and I got our picture taken together. He's a pretty cool dude. And he's got that relationship where he can come into some of these stores every once in a while and do a signing. That benefits everybody. He comes in, does a signing, the store gets a cut of money, he gets to sell some stuff to people who might not otherwise know he exists. That's certainly how I met him. That's certainly how I became aware of Rebirth of the Gangster. That's how I bought the first book. That's how I bought every other book he has, is just seeing him in person. I bought this when he was at a convention. It was up at the Quad City Con in the Wisconsin Dells. If you can establish those kinds of relationships on both sides, you're doing great. Because that enables everybody, absolutely everybody, to make a little money and put some food on the table. And maybe if you're lucky, keep making stuff so that you can keep putting food on the table. You have to make it economically sustainable. The stores need the creators need the stores. And I think the balance over time is shifting so that these days, maybe the creators don't need the stores so much. Alternative Comics seems to be doing pretty good selling stuff basically through Indiegogos and Kickstarters and off of the website. I don't know that anybody except maybe Peter Samedi is like at the point where they're making a living solely from those ventures. But I know, they're all, well, maybe not all of them, most of them at least, are hustling and trying to make deals. Spencer, especially, he absolutely has been. Just there we go. That was the wrong scene. Sorry, Spencer. He absolutely has been pushing stuff. He talks about it in the stream. Showing up at shops, talking to people, trying to establish those relationships. And it's a shame. It kind of hurts me that it's that hard for creators to have that conversation and just get like one or two things on the shelf as a demo. Like, hey, you can have this cool thing and maybe you sell it. I don't know. Those are some thoughts I had while I was watching this stream, and I just kind of wanted to get those out there into the ether and see if people thought I was crazy or not. Pro tip, I probably am crazy, but that's neither here nor there. You all take care of yourselves. You have a great day, great night, great whatever you've got going on. Hope to see you again next time. Until then, bye-bye.